This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And thank you for joining us again for another Onside Kick. If you're listening on Blog Talk Radio, hello, welcome back. If you're on YouTube, hey, YouTubes, you can see us this week. We are the video podcast of the week after the Primetime Podcast. Myself and Brandon took it last week. But, Mark, we are getting in the NFL to a time, it's after week 13, so you know what that means. Playoffs?
Yeah.
We're going to be talking playoffs?
You know, it's almost here, and the thing I like about this is not necessarily the shoe-in. You know, it's not the Oakland Raiders, the Dallas Cowboys. My favorite thing is the 6-6 type of division at the moment. The anybody's game. I mean, even the NFC North, although it looks like the Lions might, just take it, unfortunately.
And we're gonna talk about that 6-6 division today.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. But it's just one of those things where it's anybody's game, and you can look at it and say, okay, if this happens, that happens, this team's in. But if this, and that happens, then that team's in. And that's where it gets fun. That's where it gets interesting.
And we're talking, if you guys haven't figured it out, we're talking playoffs today. And we're going to hit 3 different topics, all involving playoff scenarios or just playoff situations. We're going to hit the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, their recent success. And I'll be honest, fans have been commenting on our prediction video, kind of laughing that we didn't have the Buccaneers as successful as they are.
But really, you guys didn't either. Well, let's get straight here.
Me and Brandon were kind of saying that after the PTP when I brought up to Brandon. He's like, come on, who really thought the Bucs were going to be in a playoff situation after week 13? Nobody did. We're going to look at the AFC South, who's going to win that division. Also look at the NFC North and kind of hopefully debate between the Ravens and the Steelers for who could win that division in the AFC. But we will start south of the border, nice weather in Florida, Tampa Bay, home of the Bucs, home of the Rays. But we're talking about the Buccaneers, and this is a team, you look at the playoff standings right now. They are in the playoffs at the 6th seed because the Washington Redskins lost that last game that they had. 6-5-1. Bucs are right ahead of them at 7-5. This is a team, Mark, that if you look at their last 4 games, all win streaks started against your Chicago Bears, who you kind of got on your hoodie there. What makes this team, before we get to the actual question of, will they make the playoffs? What makes this team so good right now, especially in their last 4?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, part of it, of course, is going to be with Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, for as much shit as Jameis Winston got coming out of the draft, just to be, completely blunt with it, he's a good quarterback.
Especially after that first game against Marcus.
Yeah. He's definitely a good quarterback out there. But the thing to think about with this team as well is they had issues with Lovie Smith, but they've made their changes. They have adjusted the coaching staff. They've made adjustments to the roster. They're trying to give Jameis Winston his weapons. They're trying to improve that defense that got worse over the last few years. They're trying to do everything they can. And the one thing I want to point out, because, when we're looking at this schedule, it's not like they're all just beating cakewalk teams. The Bucs have beat the Chiefs. The Bucs have beat the Seahawks. Even the Chargers are an all right team. So they're actually going against legitimate competitors out there. The thing that worries me for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course, is the point differential. They give up 8 more points than they score right now. So they're at a -8. That's not good. You're not excited about that.
Well, I mean, could part of that also be that they lost, 40-7 to the Cardinals early in the year?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at their last 4, obviously because they've been winning, they're outscoring their opponents. That's why they're 4-0. But could it be maybe because early in the year they had a 20-point loss to Denver, a 33 loss, like I said, to the Cardinals, some kind of lopsided losses early that kind of inflate that a little bit?
Sure, but at the same time, I mean, you look at the team and, against the Chargers giving up 21, giving up Well, you already mentioned some of the losses, but
still gave up 43 against the Falcons.
Yeah, they're going to be a team that isn't that great of a defense. The defense isn't that great. The things that are good are Jameis, it's Mike Evans, it's, just because I want to say his name, it's Jaquiz.
Who got your quiz? They got your quiz.
These are the things that are doing well for the team. It's not the defense. The defense is not what's doing great for the Buccaneers. It's not doing bad. I don't want to say that the Buccaneers have a terrible defense. Their defense is fine. It's just that it's not the most high-powered offense, but it's a good offense. It's not a shut-down defense, but it's a pretty decent defense.
Mm-hmm.
They're a team that is performing pretty averagely right now. And I think when all things are said and done, because we're going to answer the actual question later, I think that's what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be. Average.
Well, for me, the Buccaneers, kind of to answer the same question that I threw you, the two things that I think are playing into their success right now is, I'm going to go off of what you said. I wanted to say Jameis Winston, but you said it, so I'm going to go with a different part of Jameis. It's the turnover numbers for Jameis Winston. You look at that loss to the Cardinals, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. You look at that 20-point loss to Denver, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, you might look at it and say, well, Ricky, in that Atlanta Falcon game, they got blown out, but he threw 3 touchdowns, no INTs. They've got a fucking pretty good offense if you haven't looked at it. And plus, that was maybe a revenge game for Atlanta for the Bucs getting a steal of a win in week 1 where Winston went for 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. But ever since this win streak started, Winston has only thrown 3 interceptions, has not thrown more than 1 interception in a game, and has a total of 6 touchdowns within his last 4 games. Playing efficiently, not turning over the ball, and that last one is a big reason why you win football games. If you keep the ball on your side of the field, you're putting a better percentage in your team's hands of winning the game. Another thing that I think is playing into this a little bit, the return of the muscle hamster. And this was one thing where you had Doug Martin, went down with an injury in that Arizona Cardinal game. He came back for that Bear game. That was his first game back. That was one where he didn't really, that was the kind of ease him back in.
Yeah, got to get the rust off.
He only had 33 yards on 16 carries. It was him and Peyton Barber who had the split of carries in that one. But ever since, 24 carries, 63 yards against the Kansas City Chiefs. You may be saying, well, Ricky, 63 yards, he only had about 2 yards per average. Peyton Barber had more on the yards per attempt than him. Still, 63 yards on 24 carries, just having that consistent run game to open things up for Jameis Winston so you don't go one-sided, one-dimensional. Then 23 carries, 87 yards, and even more yards per carry at 3.8 against the Seahawks in a close defensive battle. And then the big one, he only had 45 yards, but he actually got into the end zone against the Chargers. So to me, it's this team is not turning over the ball, and they have their run game coming back. And, guess what? They also, this past week, got a guy who you mentioned not too long ago, Jaquiz Rodgers. So they're getting the running backs back into their backfield. And if Jameis Winston can continue to not turn over the ball, this is a team that I would not hesitate to stamp the dark horse label on them when it comes to the playoff picture and the playoff race.
I would hesitate. I think an important thing of what you're saying is that he's not throwing those interceptions. They're not turning the ball over.
He's not trying to play hero ball.
Asterisk anymore. And that's a big part of it, of course. Don't try and put it all on yourself. A problem I have for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is at the end of the schedule, it's getting tough. And you would have thought that the Chiefs, the Seahawks are tough.
Is it?
A split against the Saints is what I would probably call. They're going to have to play the Cowboys.
The Cowboys,
that's
to me,
probably a loss at Dallas.
The Cowboys, to me, are the toughest game. I think that
by far, because they're the best team in the NFC.
I think with looking at their last 4, I think you're sitting, and to me, I'm putting it at a 50-50 percentage. It's either 2-2 or 3-1.
See, I got to say 2-2. I think they'll split the Saints because the Saints are a good team that are still trying to fight to get into the playoffs. It's a long shot, but they're still trying to do it. The Panthers, they're probably going to beat the Panthers because the Panthers are giving up on life at this point. But the Cowboys, pretty sure thing that's going to be a loss. You're looking at probably 2-2. 9-7. It's good. You're happy if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan. You're happy if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's not getting you into the playoffs probably, though.
See, I am going to sit there and say maybe it will, because now if we're having the discussion of will it win them the division, then I'm on your side. I'm saying no, they probably won't win the division. And the reason why I say that is, for the sake of argument, let's just say they go 2-2. Let's say they win against the Panthers and the home game against the Saints, lose to the Cowboys, lose to the Saints in New Orleans. That would put them at 9-7 on the year. And let's say even Atlanta goes, what? If they go 2-2 in their last 4 games, all Atlanta would need to do then is to not lose both of their divisional games, and they would have the tiebreaker over the Buccaneers, because right now they both sit Falcons and Bucs with 1 divisional loss. The Atlanta Falcons and Bucs, because they split, the first thing that they would look at is that divisional record. So the Bucs, you have to win. Like, the Saints games are the most important because you're going to win the Panther game. I'm not high on the Panthers this year, and I know that's kind of like a whoa.
Yeah, as you shouldn't be.
We got a badass over here saying that he's not on the Panther bandwagon.
Personally, I think the Cleveland Browns are bad. I don't know what you guys think out there.
However, the thing that I do look at is the 3 teams behind the Buccaneers, the Redskins, the Vikings, and the Packers. And their schedules are not that favorable. The Packers, they play Seattle this week. Yeah, you get them at home, but Seattle's a good team. They're kind of revving up at the right time. The Vikings, that's a game where I know the Vikings haven't been good since the first half of the season, but it's one of those things, especially if Adrian Peterson can come back in that one. AP has proven, hey, I don't have to be a 100-yard winner for us to win the game. I know that week 2 game, different teams right now, and then that Detroit game. And you're sitting, a full game back? So, I mean, you would have to go you'd have to almost go 3-1, almost win out. I think that the Packers lose 2. They lose to the Seahawks, they lose to the Lions.
I'll give them a loss to the Seahawks, ending against the Lions. The Lions might have the division clinched at that point and might not care. They might be saying, hey, you know what, maybe we'll play at first, but if things aren't going so well, we'll just sit the starters. I mean, we don't need it.
Depending on what happens to the Cowboys, or actually, not the Cowboys, anything can happen with the Cowboys right now, but more with the Seahawks. They're only a half game out of that second spot behind Seattle. Maybe it's not a, hey, we got the division, but hey, we can get a bye. That's why they could be playing that one. I look at the Vikings. I don't expect a strong finish. We'll win this week because we're playing Jacksonville. We might beat the Colts. The Packers we might lose. The Bears is a total toss-up, but I'm kind of hoping that we win. If we lose to Matt Barkley and that Bears team, we don't deserve to make the playoffs in any way.
He's the real deal now, is what Chicago media wants to say.
Let's put it this way: 2-2 for I got the Packers and Vikings at 2-2 each. That means if you're a Bucs fan, just on those 2, if you go 2-2, you're fine. You did the exact same thing.
You did what you had to do to get in.
You stay that game ahead of them. The Redskins are the wild card, and the reason why I say that, Redskins are going to beat the Panthers. Redskins are going to beat the Bears. The big thing that it comes down to is you need Philly to win and the Giants to win. The Giants can do that. The big thing that, and I am calling this, the Tampa Bay Buccaneer playoff hopes are going to be decided this week at 1 o'clock Eastern time when the Redskins go into the Eagles. If the Redskins win that game, the Bucs, they're not making the playoffs. If the Eagles win, Bucs are in.
Yeah, it's definitely possible because that's one of their biggest competition. I mean, like you're saying, it's
only
the Packers,
a half game.
It's the
that
Redskins.
tie. That tie, it's only a half game.
And it's really, it's tough for them because when you look at the Atlanta Falcons, they have a easy breeze of the end of the season here. They're playing the Rams, they're playing the 49ers, they're playing the Panthers, and then they get to play the Saints at home. So it's a breeze from this point forward for them. They should walk in. I don't even think they should lose a single game at the end of the season.
Maybe the Saints.
Maybe the Saints
play up a little bit.
Maybe, but it's at home. You already beat them in Louisiana, so I think you'll be okay. So I see the Atlanta Falcons walking away. Obviously the rest of our division winners, Seahawks, Lions, I think we can agree that the Lions have it. Like you're saying, it all comes down to the Redskins and, of course, the Giants and the Packers. What are those teams going to do? I'm seeing the Packers quite probably with a 3-1. I don't know. They just get hot at the right time.
So you think they'll win the 3 divisional games and lose to the Seahawks?
Pretty much. I mean, hell, they could beat the Seahawks too and then lose to the Lions.
True.
But I don't know. We'll see what happens there. To me, it's just that I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm not saying the Buccaneers are not going to make the playoffs. I just don't think it's an easy route in. A lot of things got to go right.
It's not easy. No one's saying that it's easy, but to me, I think that it's a weird situation because if I'm a Bucs fan and I'm looking at just your team and yourself, you've got to be hoping for 3-1. You have to hope for 3-1 because then what you can do at 3-1 is say, cool. Then it doesn't matter if the Vikings and Packers and Redskins go 3-1, everything would stay the same.
Yeah.
And the big question mark are those Saints games. Can you beat the Saints twice? And this is a team where I'll throw it out there even though I feel like both of us would pick the same team. Is there maybe a possibility they go into Dallas and, hey, they beat the Seahawks. They played up for the Seahawks. I know that was in Tampa. This one would be in Jerry World. But is there maybe a possibility in a weird world where they get the upset over Dak and the boys?
I don't know. I don't know if there is that possibility for me. The reason why I say that is just because I don't think that the defense is going to be able to stop everything that the Cowboys can do. Same thing that makes me nervous about playing the Saints, because Drew Brees can light up the scoreboard. And I don't know that Jameis Winston's going to keep up without making mistakes. And that defense of the Buccaneers, not sure if it's going to stop the Saints. So I'm very torn on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because of those facts, because the Atlanta Falcons are probably going to waltz into the playoffs, because they still have to go and basically win a shootout against the Saints, most likely. Because I don't think that they can repeat a 14-5 victory against a good team like the Seahawks. I don't think they're going to do that against the Cowboys this time. So it's not... To me, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are that team where so much of their postseason fate relies on what else happens in the NFL.
Well, and my big thing, and I'm going to try to make a case really quick to kind of end this, that the Bucs could possibly up. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying I'm making the case.
You want them to be the dark horse.
That they can maybe upset the Cowboys, because let's be honest, the Cowboys are not going to win out the rest of the year. They are going to lose at least a game. They're not going to go one loss the entire year. There's going to be a game they slip up. And I look at the games that the Bucs played, just their last 4, because that's the part where they've been playing well. I look at the running backs, because really the Vikings in their Thursday night loss showed what you do. You get pressure after Dak Prescott, and you limit Ezekiel Elliott. Look at the Bears. Jay Cutler, sacked 4 times, got some good pressure against him. However, Jordan Howard on 15 carries got 100 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but got 100 yards, so I'm not too happy with that. Look at the Chiefs. You didn't sack Alex Smith a single time. Spencer Ware got 69 yards. You have a game like that, yeah, you beat the Chiefs by 2. Cowboys will probably beat you by 20. And that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but you guys get my point. Then the Seahawks, you get 6 sacks after Russell Wilson now The thing is, and maybe Dak fits into this a little bit, Russell Wilson uses his legs, so he does run around a lot in the backfield. However, Wilson had 80 yards on 8 carries, and he was the leading rusher. However, Rawls, only 38 carries. So that was a good game. That's why they were able to virtually beat the Seahawks. And then with the Chargers, only 2 sacks on Rivers, and Melvin Gordon goes 84. So if the trend kind of goes back and forth, Zeke and Dak will be fine because it will be the Saints that have to deal with the sack machines and the running backs who don't go anywhere.
Yeah. I don't think the Saints really care too much about running backs because Drew Brees is where it's at. So I don't know. Like I said, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are just that team where they're going to be sitting on the couch every chance they get, watching other teams to see how things play out.
So you're saying they don't make the playoffs?
I'm leaning towards they don't make the playoffs.
Can you give me a percentage, yes or no?
It's not going to be that high of a percentage. It's like a 60% they do not make the playoffs.
Okay, so 60-40 no to yes.
Yeah, because to me, I think Giants, they'll go in. I think the Packers are getting hot at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the Packers are behind the Bucs, but I don't know. I am going to trust that Aaron Rodgers can, and I know we just talked shit about Aaron Rodgers not too long ago, but week to week things change. We really didn't talk shit, but whatever. Aaron Rodgers, I can trust him to, at the right time, make sure his team gets into the playoffs more so than the young, inexperienced Jameis Winston that at any day might slip back into interception prone because he's about 2-1. His touchdown to interception ratio is about 2-1. And that makes me nervous.
The one thing I will say is right now, I would lean towards yes, that they would be in. However, to me, it's 50-50. And the reason why is, like I said earlier, that Redskin-Eagle game is going to decide if the Bucs are in or out. Because if the Redskins win, they will have enough, I think, to finish the rest of their schedule to get in by a half game. If they lose, the Bucs will get in by a half game. But before we move on, this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below what you guys think. Are the Bucs a playoff team? Are they going to make the playoffs? Let us know down below in the comment section.